My name is Emily, I'm 28 years old, and my life has never been easy. My story began with tragedy and betrayal, but thanks to my grandfather's support, I was able to find my way. I gave birth to my daughter Sarah when I was still a college student, in my freshman year. It was a time full of chaos and uncertainty. Sarah's father remained unknown, the result of one meaningless night at a student party. My parents couldn't come to terms with it. Their moral principles did not allow them to accept me and my daughter. I was banished from home, and there was an abyss of uncertainty in front of me. The only one who responded to my cry for help was my grandfather John. He has always been an example of wisdom and understanding for me. His relationship with my father was far from perfect, and maybe that's why he decided to support me. When Grandpa John passed away 2 years ago, he left me all his possessions. I remember the day I received the news of his death as if it were yesterday. In his will, I found words that touched me to the core. He believed in me and loved Sarah, and this was his last message to me. The inheritance turned out to be much larger than I could have imagined. It included not only money, but also a large house which became our new home. Sometime after my grandfather's death, I met Tom. Tom was 7 years older than me, and he already had 2 children from a previous marriage, 6-year-old Emma and 10-year-old Jack. His ex-wife moved to the other side of the country and practically did not keep in touch with them. Tom took full responsibility for the children, and they lived with us in the house left to me by my grandfather. Tom and I quickly found a common language. He was a caring father and a kind man. His children fell in love with Sarah, and our little family began to build a common life. We've been living together for over a year now, splitting all expenses in half. Our finances remain separate, which was fine with me. But everything changed when Tom proposed to me 2 months ago. It was a warm summer evening. We were sitting on the terrace, enjoying the sunset view. Tom, suddenly becoming serious, took out a ring and asked if I would marry him. Of course, I said yes. It was a moment of happiness, but also the beginning of new challenges. Sarah's birthday was approaching, and I decided to give her a special gift. Sarah has long dreamed of a pony. She was fond of horse riding and dreamed of her own pony. I decided it was time to fulfill her dream. After discussing this with Tom, I was shocked by his reaction. "Why are you going to spend our money on such stupid gifts?" "What is it?" he asked angrily. "I'm not going to take money from our budget, Tom," I replied calmly. "If you're buying a pony for Sarah, then buy a pony for my children," he demanded. "Okay, let's split this purchase in half," I suggested. "No, you should buy them yourself, since you're so rich," Tom insisted. "I want everything to be fair for all children." His words sounded like a blow. I understood his point of view, but I also felt that my daughter should not share her inheritance. It was an inheritance from John's grandfather, who loved her and left everything to us. So I decided to create a trust fund to secure Sarah's future. Having created a trust fund, I transferred 50% of the inheritance there to ensure that the money would be used only for Sarah's education, housing, and other important needs. I placed the remaining 30% in my personal trust and left 20% for the house and land holdings. A few days ago, Tom found the trust fund documents in my desk and caused a scandal. "Why did you hide this from me?" he shouted. "We're going to get married, and all assets should be shared." "Tom, I'm sharing everything I earn with you. But inheritance is a separate topic. You don't bring any inheritance into our union either," I tried to explain. "That's because I don't have it. It's incredibly selfish of you to lock up that kind of money," he continued. "Sarah will live in luxury, and my children will live in average prosperity. It's not fair." I was stunned by his words and realized that we were going to have a serious conversation about trust and the future. Our conversation lasted for several hours. We discussed how we see our future together, how we will manage finances, and what justice means in our case. Tom offered to sign a prenuptial agreement to eliminate my fears. He sincerely wanted all children to feel equal in our home. However, I realized that it is impossible to make everything fair for everyone. My inheritance is destined for Sarah's future, and I couldn't do anything else. Even with our income, we would not be able to provide equal conditions for all children. Many of the advice I received from friends and family instilled in me a fear of possible problems in my marriage. I love Tom, but my daughter will always come first. That's why I decided to cancel the wedding. We were both saddened by this decision, but Tom didn't make a scene, which calmed me down a little. We decided to stay together, but without marriage. Our partnership has been valuable for both of us, but we are also both parents who want the best for their children. I plan to protect the house and land by consulting with an inheritance lawyer. Now we have to continue our lives together, trying to make it as good as possible for all children. I hope that our future will be bright, even if we don't become husband and wife. Sarah's birthday was approaching, and I knew she needed a special gift. Sarah has always been a wonderful girl, passionate about horses since she was very young. Her eyes lit up every time we passed the stables, and I couldn't resist her dream of a pony. I decided that for this birthday she would get what she had dreamed of for so long. One evening, when Tom and I were having dinner after a hard day, I cautiously started talking about a gift for Sarah. "Tom, I have an idea for Sarah's birthday," I began, looking into his eyes. "I think I want to give her a pony." Tom raised his eyebrows and put his fork on his plate. "A pony? Are you serious, Emily?" he asked incredulously. "Yes, seriously. She has been dreaming of her own pony for a long time, and I think now is the time to fulfill her dream," I replied with a smile. "But it's a huge expense. Are you sure this is a good idea? We spend a lot of money on children anyway." Tom was clearly unhappy. "I'm not going to take money from our common budget. I'll buy a pony with my money left over from my grandfather," I explained. Tom sighed and rubbed his temples. "But if you're buying a pony for Sarah, what about Emma and Jack? It wouldn't be fair to them," he said, clearly trying to contain his irritation. "I understand, Tom. But if they want ponies too, let's split the costs equally," I suggested, hoping for a compromise. "No, Emily. If you're buying a pony for Sarah, then buy one for my kids. Otherwise, it won't be fair," Tom said firmly. I felt anger boiling up inside me. We've lived together for so long, and I thought Tom understood my feelings and my obligations to my daughter. But his stubbornness put everything at risk. "Tom, I understand that you want equality for all children. But this is my grandfather's money, which he left to Sarah and me. Just want her dream to come true," I said, trying to stay calm. Tom looked at me with obvious displeasure. "If you're going to spend that kind of money on Sarah, then be prepared to do the same for Emma and Jack. Otherwise, it won't be fair." His voice sounded cold. This conversation left me with an unpleasant feeling. I knew that Tom was right in his desire for equality, but I also felt that my grandfather's legacy was meant for Sarah and her future. I decided that I would have to find a way to fulfill Sarah's dream without causing conflict. The next day, I went to a lawyer to discuss the possibility of setting up a trust fund for Sarah. I wanted to make sure that her future would be protected, no matter how my relationship with Tom turned out. "Good afternoon, Miss Smith." Mr. Jenkins, the lawyer, greeted me when I entered his office. "How can I help you?" "Hello, Mr. Jenkins. I would like to discuss the possibility of creating a trust fund for my daughter," I replied, sitting down on a chair opposite his desk. "Sure, let's discuss your plans," he said, taking out a notebook and pen. We spent several hours discussing the details and terms of the trust fund. I wanted the money to be used only for Sarah's education, housing, and other important needs. Mr. Jenkins helped me develop all the necessary documents, and soon the trust fund was established. Meanwhile, the situation was heating up at home. Tom found the trust fund documents in my desk and caused a scandal. "Why did you hide this from me?" he shouted, waving the papers. "We're going to get married, and all assets should be shared." "Tom, I'm sharing everything I earn with you. But inheritance is a separate topic. You don't bring any inheritance into our union either." Try to explain. "That's because I don't have it. It's incredibly selfish of you to lock up that kind of money," he continued. "Sarah will live in luxury, and my children will live in average prosperity. It's not fair." I felt my heart constrict in my chest. Tom's words cut me to the core, and I realized that we were going to have a serious conversation about trust and the future. We discussed how we see our future together, how we will manage finances, and what justice means in our case. Tom offered to sign a prenuptial agreement to eliminate my fears. He sincerely wanted all children to feel equal in our home. However, I realized that it is impossible to make everything fair for everyone. My inheritance is destined for Sarah's future, and I couldn't do anything else. Even with our income, we would not be able to provide equal conditions for all children. Many of the advice I received from friends and family instilled in me a fear of possible problems in my marriage. I love Tom, but my daughter will always come first. That's why I decided to cancel the wedding. We were both saddened by this decision, but Tom didn't make a scene, which calmed me down a little. We decided to stay together, but without marriage. Our partnership has been valuable for both of us, but we are also both parents who want the best for their children. I planned to protect the house and land by consulting with an inheritance lawyer. Now we have to continue our lives together, trying to make it as good as possible for all children. I hope that our future will be bright, even if we don't become husband and wife. It's been a few days since I made the decision to create a trust fund for Sarah. I felt that I had taken the right step to protect my daughter's future, but I could not foresee the consequences it would entail. One evening, after a long day at work, I returned home and found Tom in the office. He was standing at my desk, holding a folder of documents in his hands, and looked very upset. "Emily, what are these papers?" he began, his voice trembling with anger. I froze in place, realizing that Tom had found the documents about the trust fund. These are the documents about the trust fund that I created for Sarah," I replied cautiously, trying to calm him down. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" he continued, his eyes burning with indignation. "We're going to get married, and everything should be open and honest." "Tom, I didn't hide it intentionally. I just wanted to protect Sarah's future." I tried to explain, but I knew it wouldn't calm him down. "To protect Sarah's future? What about the future of my children? Do you understand what you're doing?" His voice was getting louder. "Tom, please, let's talk calmly. I'll explain everything." I tried to speak softly, hoping to calm him down. He sank into a chair and took a deep breath, trying to pull himself together. "Okay, explain," he said, holding back his emotions. "When my grandfather left me an inheritance, he did it on the condition that it would be used for Sarah. I wanted to make sure that her future would be protected, no matter what might happen." I began. "I understand your intentions, but you should have told me about it. We have to make such decisions together," he argued. "Tom, I know, and I really wanted to discuss it with you, but I was afraid of your reaction," I confessed. "Why did you think I wouldn't understand?" "What is it?" he asked, his voice softening. "Because I knew it could cause conflict. I wanted Sarah to be safe, and I didn't want it to cause a rift between us," I replied, feeling tears welling up in my eyes. Tom got up and came over to me. He hugged me and said softly, "Emily, I understand that you want the best for your daughter. But we have to be honest with each other. We are going to become a family, and we need to trust each other. I felt my heart lighten. Perhaps our conversation will help us find a common language and strengthen our relationship. The next day, we decided to talk to the children about the trust fund. I understood that this might raise questions, but it's better to discuss everything now than face misunderstandings later. Sarah, Emma, Jack, we need to talk. I began when everyone was gathered in the living room. The children looked at us with interest, waiting for us to say something. Emily and I want to tell you about an important decision she made, Tom said. Did my mom set up a trust fund for me? Sarah guessed right away. Yes, Sarah, I confirmed. We want to make sure that you have a future full of opportunities. This trust fund will help you in the future when you need money for education or housing. Emma and Jack looked at us with questioning looks. What does this mean for us? Jack asked. This means that Sarah will have some financial support in the future. But that doesn't mean we won't take care of you the same way we take care of her. Tom explained. Emma frowned and asked, why don't we have such a fund? The fact is that this is an inheritance from John's grandfather, who left it to Emily and Sarah. We will try our best to make sure that all of you have everything you need, Tom tried to explain. I could see that the children didn't fully understand yet, but I hoped that over time they would accept it. Later, when the children had gone to their rooms, Tom came up to me and hugged me. We'll manage, Emily. I believe that we can do everything right for all children, he said. I felt his words fill me with confidence. We will manage despite all the difficulties. However, after a few days, I noticed that Tom was still tense. He was retiring to his office more and more often, and I knew that he was thinking about our conversations about the trust fund. One evening, I decided to talk to him about it. Tom, what's bothering you? I asked, entering the office. He looked up from the papers and sighed. I'm just thinking about the future, Emily. I want to make sure that we are doing everything right, he replied. Are you worried about Sarah's trust fund creating inequality? I guessed. Yes, that's part of the problem. But I'm also worried about our future together. We must be sure that we can cope with any difficulties, he admitted. Tom, I believe in us. We can get through this together. We just need to trust each other and be honest, I said, feeling the anxiety in his words. I believe that too, Emily. Let's try to get through this together, he said, hugging me. Our conversation gave me hope for a better future. But I knew that there were new challenges ahead. Now we had to find a balance between our desires and responsibilities in order to keep the family together and ensure a future for all our children. Tom and I discussed our future for a long time, trying to find a compromise. I understood that Sarah's trust fund had become a stumbling block, but I couldn't back down from my decision. In the evening, when the children were already asleep, we returned to the conversation. Emily, I don't want our relationship to collapse because of money, Tom said, looking into my eyes. But it's important to me that all children feel equal. Tom, I understand you. I also want our children to be happy, I replied, but I can't give away the inheritance that is meant for Sarah. This is her future. We can find a way to ensure the future of all children, he suggested. What if we create a common fund for all children? Where will we invest our joint savings? I thought about his words. It could have been a good solution, but I still needed to protect Sarah's inheritance. That's a good idea, Tom. But I want Sarah's inheritance to remain at her disposal. We can create a common fund, but not touch the money from the trust fund, I suggested. I agree. Let's do this, Tom said, hugging me. The next day, we went to a lawyer to discuss the creation of a common fund. Mr. Jenkins was happy to help us and offered several options. You can create a common family fund where you will invest money for all children, he began. This will allow you to maintain a balance between children and protect individual savings. We discussed the details and decided to open such a fund. I felt that this would help us cope with financial issues and maintain harmony in the family. However, despite this decision, the tension in the house still remained. The kids started noticing that something was going on, and I had to explain to them that we were working to make sure that everything was fair for everyone. Sarah, Emma, Jack, we want you to know that we will always take care of you. I began, gathering the children in the living room. We are creating a common fund so that all your needs are provided for. But Sarah already has her own fund, right? Emma asked. Yes, Emma, but the general fund will be for all of you. We will invest the money there so that you can use it for training and other important things, Tom explained. The children nodded, but I could see that they still didn't fully understand what that meant. I hoped that in time they would accept our decision. A few weeks have passed, and the situation has begun to stabilize. Tom and I became closer, discussing our plans and dreams. I felt that we were finding common ground again. One evening, we decided to have a family dinner to celebrate our new beginning. Tom made his signature dish, lasagna, and I made a salad. We're having a special dinner tonight, Tom announced as everyone sat down at the table. We want to point out that we are a family and we will always support each other. The children applauded joyfully, and I felt my heart lighten. This moment has become a symbol of unity and hope for a better future for us. However, a few days later, when we thought that everything was finally working out, something unexpected happened. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, I noticed that Tom was acting strangely. He was tense and silent. Tom, what happened? I asked, worried about his condition. Emily, I need to tell you something, he began, avoiding my gaze. What is it? I asked, feeling a growing sense of unease. I found a new job in another city, he said quietly. My eyes widened in surprise. What? Why didn't you tell me before? I exclaimed. I wanted to make sure it was reliable before I spoke. This is a great opportunity for all of us, he explained. But what does it mean for us? We just fixed everything up here. I was stunned. I think this could be a new beginning for us. We can move in and start over, he said, trying to convince me. I didn't know what to say. Moving would mean starting a new life, but also a huge change for all of us. I need to think about it, I said quietly, leaving the room. I went to the garden to be alone and think about everything. Moving could be a chance for us, but it would also mean leaving behind everything we have built here. I didn't know how the children would react to this news. That evening, the whole family gathered again and began discussing a possible move. Kids, we have important news, Tom began, trying to speak calmly. I received a job offer in another city. It means we can move. Sarah, Emma, and Jack looked at us in surprise. Move in, but we just fixed everything up here, Sarah said, her voice trembling. I know, Sarah, it will be a big change, but it may be the best for all of us, I explained, trying to support her. But what about our friends and the school? Emma asked. We will find a new school and new friends. It's going to be a new adventure. Tom tried to cheer them up. We discussed this for a long time, and eventually the children began to accept the idea of moving. I was still doubtful, but I understood that this could be a chance for all of us. A few days passed, and we began to prepare for the move. I felt that our future was uncertain, but I was ready to accept any challenges. Tom and I have decided that we will work together to create a new life for our family. One evening, as we were sitting on the terrace watching the sunset, Tom hugged me and said softly, "We'll manage, Emily. We've always managed." I smiled and felt my heart lighten. Our future was full of uncertainty, but I knew that together we would cope with any difficulties. So we have come to the end of this story. Please write your opinion in the comments. We will be interested to know it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss new, even more exciting stories. We wish you good luck.